It is a mystery as silty and brown as the confluence of two struggling rivers, that the chemistry of love conspires to fuse into one the beautiful and the baneful. So I am considering, and so is everybody else, seated in the third pew next to Gilson, and he's whispering to me, I just don't get it, do you? Because in a moment, after due introductions of the organ and rigmarole, down this aisle shall come Melissa, we call her Rita, Hepworth, as nubile as the sun and as buxom as plump tomorrow. And waiting for her there, at the deep purple altar, is, remarkably, Maggot Wells, as pimply as a pizza, as charismatic as a horse's anus. I shrug. Gilson looks around. Maybe he's got a big dick, he suggests, quietly to my shoulder. There can be no other answer. This is the third hitching since eligible July. Who gets married in a winter of strange portents? First the maple leaves malinger with gluey intent, then the kookaburras all stop laughing. Gilson is flabbergasted. He's had the hots for Rita since long-winded puberty. Maybe, he whispers to me, she thinks he's rich. Is he rich? Not that I know of, I say. No, he agrees. A mystery. More to the point, a dull one. Some weddings are waltzes. Some are bungled hastenings into bed. Some feature fine food and free beer. Typically, Maggot's knot is tied with dreary longing. The church decor is resplendent in kitsch, the heating is broken and half the congregation has the flu. Making matters worse, there has been a callous delay. The bride's tawdry ambulation had a tyre change. Dreariness is probably the reason, therefore, that amidst the sniffles and puzzled faces of the guest, my own sight fixes upon the sullen flower girl. She is decidedly unhappy. Her round Irish face, tickled with tiny freckles, is appropriately winged with Irish ears, behind which her brown hair is pushed yonder to make a hanging for little lilacs and spotted daisies. Her dress, it turns out, is a miniature version of the bride's, according to the custom, but it hangs limp on her girly form and her red shoes are a size too big. Her milk teeth are bucky. Her nose is a tipple of cute fancy. She moves up the aisle, clutching her basket of floral spokes as if her mother is pushing her every step. Her eyes are big and green. I watch them for an instant, and my eyes ask them, do you not like being a flower girl? Her eyes screw up their nose. My eyes smile. Her eyes poke out their tongue and tell me how she hates festooning rose petals in the path of the maid of honour. Somebody has said to her, would you like to be your Aunt Melissa's flower girl? She has run about the house screaming, no! Somebody has said, you'll do what you're told, young lady. This much was striking. A country wedding can be a loose-fitting affair. Often the best man will look as awkward as a bogus possum in a dilapidated outhouse. Often the caterers besiege the reception with white flower frillies and choc mint lamingtons. Many of the guests dress like old wallpaper. There are flowers though, pink peonies and clematis bouquets, and lots of lilacs. The flower girl is herald of the dawning springtide and the coming good. This flower girl is all thistles and soursop. I wonder perhaps if she has met the bridegroom and knows him as the boring maggot that we do. Several years go by. I am thereupon beseated in a kitchen and discussing foolish things with my good friend Richard Windsor. A party of spring fervour goes on all about us, and the hostess, Stephanie the birthday girl, is in the corner avoiding a Turkish nuisance named Latif of the falafels. Rigid is advancing his position that the spring is burgeoning with folly. I am saying that in my opinion one year's as mad as any other. The thing about a country birthday party, as much as a country wedding, especially in the seething behest of lengthy-eaved October, when a local band is playing in the carport and a meaty grunge of badly clad neighbours are throwing bottle lids at a hooky board for fivers in the garden shed, is how the ages mingle and how the newborn, through to the very elderly, all find solace in rum and cola. As it happens, just coincidentally, Richard relates how, only weeks beforehand, Rita Hepworth left the maggot for an alpaca farmer named Justin from Trickledown Creek, and how no one was entirely surprised. The kitchen door flies open. A girl rushes in. She's panting, wide-eyed. I see, in an immediate blast of matching, that she is the Sullen flower girl from that ill-fated wedding. She has grown pubescent, certainly, but her round Irish face is Irish still. She stops short and looks at Richard and I. She catches her teenage breath. You're the narrator, she says to me. Evidently I've been identified within some other context. I shrug. I too am drinking rum and cola. Have you seen Gavin and Millie? She blurts. Did they come through here? Narrator or not, I do not know any Gavin or Millie, and I tell her so. She hesitates, thinks it through, and then bolts into the other room. It means nothing to Richard. To me, there is the verdant wonder of girlhood and its sudden becoming. She is wearing tight jeans and a white top, and I notice the hem of lilacs and how now a gold cross of St. Martin laced around her neck. She is full of the blurting spring. She is arisen and forwardwards. Her hair is long and her freckles have found a slightly more proper place on her face. Do you know who that is? I ask Richard. No, he says, then resumes our conversation. I see she is making a treaty with life. I see the curvy realities of fresh experience. I only carve it into the posts of the night because, quite serendipitously, there is the matter of Maggot's unhappy nuptial. The district is full of alpaca farmers named Justin, and no pasty worm was ever going to beguileth Rita Hepworth till death do we part, and this regardless of his physical endowments. A pouting flower girl is an ill omen at the best of weddings. She should be a symbol of the joyous earth. Now she steps along the same egregore, pursuing the maggot man's bad fortune in my particular time and place. Stephanie's kitchen is our crossroad. Richard Windsor is our witness. Years pass. Serendipity strikes again. Somebody relates how things go horrible for Rita Hepworth. Justin, it seems, is a drinker. Maggot Wells is no prince, but he becomes a 4-storied certified accountant and is simply too dull to ever mistreat a woman. These very thoughts occupy me one morning. In the afternoon I drive across to Bixley Downs to visit the second-hand stores. I'm looking for one of those antique sausages filled with horsehair to act as a stopper where the cold breeze comes under my chilly door. The modern devices are chintzy. The old ones have brass rings and delicate lace. Moreover, the second-hand stores in Bixley Downs are brimming with lucky rummage, not least old books and Bibles. You never know what you'll find behind an obsolete water cooler or a set of maplewood dresser drawers. There are bronzy knickknacks too, and garden ornamentations, and spent banners and other regalia from foregone Easter fairs. I'm relating my requirements to the fossicker, and he relates, which I already knew, that the popular ones are those horsehair sausages made to look like German dachshunds, and he tells me, which I never knew, that they stopped importing them the day Germany invaded Poland. I decide to inspect his collection of 1920 woodwork magazines. These are housed in a small room to the rear. I enter there, and perusing other shelves is, with an immediate bolt, the Sullen flower girl. It is a moment of lukewarm discomfort for us both. This is not because of any specific aversion, but merely because when browsing, especially in a little town on the edge of the flat-handed riverlands, one likes to keep to oneself and be inward and unforthcoming. That is much of the wonder of second-hand emporiums with their dusty nooks. She looks up. It's too late for me not to interrupt her. Now, though, she's a young woman. "Oh, hello," she says with a weak smile. "Hello," I says. She knows who I am, at least to some degree. There's a brief allay of mutual recognition. For some reason, I feel obliged to explain that I'm looking for the 1920s woodwork magazines, to which she merely says, "Oh," and gives another weak smiling. I feel the need to make busy. She feels the need to keep browsing, and we say nothing more for a while. Then I say, clearing the dust from my throat, "They have a lot of stuff here." And she stops browsing and says, Yes, they do." She looks as though that would be enough, but then she suddenly decides to make a sentence or two. "I was thinking of buying one of those wicker baskets by the door," she says. "They're very nice, but he wants $100. I whistle. $100? Tell him he's dreaming." She smiles broad and straightforward. All her milk teeth have gone, and now she has the white teeth of a woman. "That's what I thought too," she admits. She's surrounded with a warm Irish goodness. She has thin lips and thick hair. I could have said, "I was thinking just this morning about my friend Maggot and Melissa Hepworth," and made the connection, but it seemed not apposite to do so. She is wearing a rosy blouse and ankle boots, and just to be sure, there is the gold cross of St. Martin still around her neck. Her big green eyes are now mature and less emblazoned with stark sensation. She has seen the ordinary secrets of the world. She is wearing a perfume, I notice, and has makeup on her skin to hide her freckles. We go back to browsing, and when she's done, which is in a few minutes, she says, "See ya," and leaves in an angle through the narrow door. "Oh," I say, looking round. "Goodbye." But she's already gone. She does not buy the wicker basket, and I do not find an antique horsehair sausage. Thus the brutal winter. The draught under the door grows bitter. Then a few more years go by, with winter times not as fierce as that, but with lengthening shadows, intrigue, small mercies. In a four-cornered eventuality, I receive a notice from the Shire, never a happy prospect, concerning the parlour state of my side fence. It has been a long innings. The laneway down to King William Street takes in the prior aspect. The fence of wooden palings and rusty nails was probably first constructed in the lean days following the war that put an end to dash-hound doorstops. In an outrage, the Shire proposes an ordinance of passageway in tiresome triplicate, and I have 80 days to comply. 80 days, I go steaming. What am I, Phileas Fogg? The inspector on the phone reiterates, "I have known the day of reckoning is coming. The fence leans at a wide precipice, and the stumps have gone juicy in the sandy soil. Had it been abutting a public park, then the Shire herself would have been liable. Alas, for a private thoroughfare and a haphazard sufferance that might conceivably topple onto an unsuspecting postman or a schoolboy chasing apples. Third-party insurance, I tell the inspector, being smart, is not my idea of a party at all." He overlooks the wordplay and says, 80 days. There are, of course, numerous forms to complete. I'm heading down to the office just off Deacon Street, when there is Maggot Wells, looking fly-blown as usual, coming at me from the corner. "Narrator, How are you? He asks, spotty. I cannot complain, I say, and then proceed to complain about the shire and my fence. It is an opportunity for old school interchange. He tells me that he knows a guy who owns a fence that dangles onto a municipal tennis court, and he and a team of country lawyers say it's the shire's fault despite the ordinance of passageway. He, Maggot, moreover, knows a lawyer who specialises in unsturdy fences and can surrender his number to me if I will. Oh, it's kind of you, Maggot, I say. Anyway, how have you been? He has trouble with his wisdom teeth, he says, and he once went to Fiji on a budget holiday. But there is not a mention of Rita of the Knockers and that whole account. I'm thinking not to press it either. It is years gone past. Now he's a man of numeracy. He is still, for all of that, a maggot. His skin is sallow and greasy. His personality is a miasm of small-town tedium. He seems to wriggle in your meat, if you can appreciate what I mean. Where is Gilson these days, he wonders. Gone to the big smoke, I explain. Then, quite suddenly, the entire conversation falls into a pit of boring. Well, I say, I must go and get these forms. Right, says the maggot. And that was about it. We walk our separate ways. I might have known, though, that such an encounter would presage new accidents of destiny. I go into the Shire office, and there, sitting at the desk, looking smart and telephonic, is, with immediate image, no one less than the Sullen flower girl. This is where she works. Now she wears a wedding ring, and her hair is tied into a classical bun. Hello, I say. Can I help you? She asks, professional. There is going to be no reconnections. It is the nature of towns. Every now and then you will run into a previous face, and rather than dwell upon it, you let it slide and make the new day new. She is maybe 25 or 26. Or maybe I miscalculate and live too readily in an eternal present, and she is 30-something and drearily employed. I do not try introductions. I could say, remember me? I'm the narrator. But instead I grumble about my 80 days. What am I say to her, having rehearsed it? Phileas Fogg? She purses her lips, unamused. I hand over the notice. She turns to her files. I watch her as she reads. I watch her green eyes explore the fine print. Womanhood has shaped her Irish beginnings. I look at her hands. I look at her fingernails, so adult and manicured. She is stubbornly exact. She is clean and deliberate and immersed in the daily mortgage of existence. She has long ago left that path of flower petals that she casts with sullen torpor before the maid of honour. She is not wearing a name badge. Her desk just says secretary. Even so, I attempt a simple feat of telepathy. What is underneath that neat fortitude? What forsakes that title? Is she even aware that somehow, by some strange tangle, she is one point of a triangle joining my presence with the maggot and maybe Rita Hepworth too? I do not quite believe this exterior and the unshakable forgetfulness of her prim demeanour. I try to say with my mind, I know you. You're the flower girl. She responds in tiresome triplicate. She seems salty and burdened now. I try to say with my mind, let me call you Lilac. She produces the relevant paperwork with officious continence and shows me where to sign. In the end, I thank her for her help, nothing more, and I go home to where the fence is leaning awkward like a symbol of life's stray deliveries and regrettable demarcations. That was a few years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Then I wake up one morning and, having long since settled into my own dreary patterns, I trudge across to purchase the daily Elegant Ridge Gazette, an unexciting institution. It chronicles the slow inventory of rural tenderness. There is the Bowls Club news and the pictures of the mayor wearing silly hats for cancer. Experts pontificate about the weather. These last few weeks, they say, have been exceptionally liquid, and the sky has been wet on all four sides in ways unknown since the floods of 42. The Murrumbidgee swells, the Darling pours into the valley. Big pools of frothy debris crowd the weirs. Tenacious eddies of muddy deluge wear at the sandy banks. The islands of reeds are overwhelmed. Farmers take their stock to higher ground. There are lambing alerts all the way over to Moronlee. Accordingly, as well, conditions along the approaching roads in and out of town are untimely and forsaken. I turn to page 4. There is the mangled engineering of a car and a victorious tree and a report on the new fatalities. There is a phenomenon called aquaplaning, where an automobile, usually at unconscionable speeds, meets a mirror of rainwater on the tarmac and circles into blind oblivion. The more the driver brakes, the wider are the arcs of mayhem. I skim over this. Then I glance across to the opposing page. A small article catches my eye. There is a photograph of a woman. I look again. It is, though barely recognisable, the Rita Hepworth of this story. The caption calls her Melissa Wells. I flick the newsprint quarter. Is she still Mrs. Maggot on some level? It is a cautionary tale of one woman's legal imbroglios after a botched breast reduction at a dodgy clinic in Thailand. Her one mission in life, says the report, her whole reason for being, is to spare other women of the district that same indignity. She has a jilted face. How beauty slumps into a dredge. The bickering years strain amongst themselves. Her cheeks are fat with lost merit. Her hair has gone mousy. Her eyes have receded and gaze at the camera with mere affectations of brightness. It's a sobering hesitation. I might have known, but did not realise it is the signal for the full round. Things fall apart. The centre soon grows old. The flooding gyres fold back in. I'm rattled, I admit. It's a Tuesday. It's late in July. No one likes to be reminded of passing time. I decide to go out again after this. Walking settles a ferment, just as a hot cup of tea redefines a narrator's willingness to see fate's inscrutable fist. There is a break in the rain. The draught below my chilly door invites me back into the bitter daylight. I take an umbrella just in case. I head for the bridge to see the wide trouble of water. It is my usual path. There is nothing strange. I go down the lane, through the park, over the main road at the giveway, and then along the bike track to the pedestrian ramp where the paddle steamers docked in the great flush of once prosperous years. The great metal pillars of the bridge abut there. There are steps, leaning willows, and then the beginning of a walkway in strict parallel with the road. There is a safety rail as it ascends above the river. The river is impersonal and angry. I'm halfway across when I hear a voice calling. I ignore it for probably 3 minutes. It becomes mixed up with the rough-throated water. But then it insists. Then there is another man on the bridge towards the end, and he's pointing and waving and turning and calling, and he runs and wants me to run with him. When I get near enough, I say, What? He yells, Down here, down here, down here. At the end of the walkway, just as on the other side, what I call my side, a breakwater buffers the flow and the metal claws of the bridge grip onto the bank. There are, however, pockets of worn clay where the churning swirl peaks and dribbles into shifting backwaters that lay rancid in hot months but are swampy and turgid in the winter. He runs down. I pick up pace. Under the bridge itself there are walls pocked with graffiti and stains of broken bottles. The water roars against the pylon. Everything sounds different. There's the smell of mud. That is when I see her lying face first in the water. A white dress floats and looms like a jellyfish. All I can conjure in that moment is the picture of Rita on page 5 of the Gazette. The man in distress cannot drag the trouble free upon his own. He has tried already. A waterlogged body clings to wet death. We roll her over and float her to the bank. "Lilac," I cry. The man looks at me. He's cold and anxious. "You know her?" he asks, puffing, shivering, confused, concerned and open-mouthed. I look at him. "Almost," I say. She wears the gold cross of St. Martin, but I notice that she's not wearing a wedding ring. She has been in the water for days. Mites and midges desecrate the blue skin. There is a calamity. "Help me," I plead, and we manage to drag her free of the lapping river. Her round Irish face is Irish still, but bloated with the dread nothingness and scratched with tentacles of long wet hair. She has stopped pouting. Selfishly, I think of my own pity. I replay the junctures of my own stupid mortality. The moment that I look at her, look over her features, her button nose, is frozen in a horrible eternity. O flesh of our wasted dream, O bridge into the dark night. Then you look around at the water, the river, the sky, the metal claws, the safety rail. I remember her at the wedding, the party, the shop at Bixley Downs, standing with professional rigour at the filing cabinet in the office of the Shire. It is shameful to admit how I feel sorry for myself and ask why I am there, the apex of that triangle, on that bleak and unrelenting morning. Rose petals and garlands are not enough to soothe a path into ineluctability. Even the narrator is struck dumb by savage doom. We only join the dots in hindsight. The flower girl stares into every tomorrow I will ever know. All the connections end when I close her big green eyes.